Hey, this is Art Eisen, and welcome to my speedrun of Mitsunari Ishida's story in Sengoku Basara Samurai Heroes. I'm making this video to go over some of the tech that's used in the run and some of the routing decisions, as my friend Nylan and I, whose channel I will link in the description, have been routing this game for several weeks now, and if I'm honest, it's like probably 80% him, but still, anyway, I got a run here to show you based on what we've been researching. One last thing before we get started. There is a version of this video without commentary if you would prefer not to listen to me blather on the whole time. The first stage of Mitsunari's story is Saika Stronghold. It's pretty much all movement. You just run to Saika as fast as possible and kill her. Consequently, I should probably talk about movement first. You can see here I'm repeatedly using Mitsunari's forward triangle into a basic square slash. This is the fastest movement he has access to besides Demon Mode, and we don't use Demon Mode for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it takes a couple seconds to start up, which in most stages is going to lose any time it would save. Secondly, all of his attacks out of it are very weak. He can't one-shot camps, and all of his attacks make him move in ways that are awkward and difficult to control. Third, efficient use of it requires equipping his personal inscription, which takes up 4 accessory slots on his weapon, unlike the 1 it takes up in Utage. This is a pretty inefficient use of slots, considering that the ability is only good for movement speed, and as previously mentioned, it's not actually even that good compared to what we're already doing here. You can also be flinched out of Demon Mode, which requires you to incur the mode's startup again. This makes it volatile outside of an IL context. So we take the side path here in order to get on the horse, which presumably saves a little bit of time. You have to be very clean with it in order for it to save time, because the horse's base movement speed is about the same as Mitsunari using that movement tech. Ironically, despite all the explaining I just did, if there is any stage where Demon Mode would save time, it's probably this one. But we're pretty sure it still doesn't because you would kill Saika much slower. You're about to see the final reason that we don't use his personal inscription. So he has a better R2. It's called Execution, and it does certain things, like one-shot every boss in the game. You might be wondering, how the hell did he get that much damage? Well, this is why we save all those slots on our weapon from not using the PI. We equip 5 workhorses and then the skull item. I believe it's called High Risk, High Return. This gives us 4,000 extra attack for the first 2.5 minutes of every stage. Every stage in Mitsunari's story can be completed in under 2.5 minutes. The skull item multiplies our outgoing damage by 1.5. This is automatically better than any other item in the game for damage output, except for having workhorses active. But stacking workhorses only increases the duration, not the amount of attack they give. We pick Imago's stage after that because it's the shortest stage in the entire video game. The first time he shows up, you can't kill him. He has a health gate at like 90% health, but he just shows up in the next room and you can kill him immediately with execution. That zigzag movement at the beginning was a little bit unfortunate. I would like to have cleaner movement. Unfortunately, I play this game on hitbox because I can't hold a regular controller, so if my path gets deviated at all, it's a bit troublesome to correct as I only have 8 directions to work with. So honestly, I'm not sure what happened in this next room. I don't know how he got stuck. I've never seen this happen any other time, and it probably cost me like 3 seconds. Normally the sand dune that indicates his hiding space is moving constantly rather than stopped in one place. But 3 seconds in a story run is pretty whatever. So you may have noticed a little counter in the top right. That is a frame counting script that Nylan made. It counts the frames that have elapsed in the stage based on the IGT in the pause menu. So it doesn't count cutscenes, it doesn't count loads, it doesn't count menuing. All it counts is the time you spend playing the game in every stage. And part of the reason we did that is because there is a stage called The Last Stand that can show up randomly. It's like 5 minutes long. And we didn't want people to have to lose runs to it, just randomly spawning. That said, we're also pretty sure that Mitsunari cannot get that stage on his red route. For stage 3, we choose Tenkai and Hideaki. We go after Tenkai because that path is much faster. Well, I don't know about much faster, it's probably like 20 seconds faster. So you may notice that sometimes I do an extra slash on the movement tech. That is a mistake, that's not supposed to happen. But the reason that that happens, well, there's basically 2 ways that you can mess it up. The first is hitting square an extra time. The second is not hitting square and having to sit through the end lag of forward triangle. Hitting square an extra time is far less costly, so I opt for that whenever I lose my rhythm. because it's better than having to wait 2 seconds to start the tech again. I lose only about a half a second instead. So we have the corrosion poison set piece in Tenkai's half of the stage. This doesn't actually matter in easy mode. We're not very likely to die no matter what. On hard mode, there is the argument that 1, we can die, but 2, we can also use it against Tenkai if we knock him into it with execution, because he's affected by it as well. But on easy, he dies in 1 execution, like basically every other boss, so there's really no reason to do that. You want to kill the 3rd squad leader last, which I remembered at the last second, which is why I started deviating towards him, because he'll run towards you while you're up here. Also, my spacing there was kind of bad. That's probably like 4 seconds or so lost on being confused about my positioning. I don't have a right stick, so I can't rotate my camera. And I wasn't looking at the mini-map because I was distracted by the position of that guy. Fortunately, this game has fairly generous auto-camera rotation whenever you're moving to the right or left, so people who don't have the ability to use a normal controller can play the game effectively, which is kind of nice. I love Tenkai, he's such a freaking troll. Hideaki's like, no, they're gonna kill me! And then Tenkai's like, maybe they will. Like, bro's just here for the ride, it's freaking great. So the next stage is kind of obnoxious for a couple of reasons. It's Tsuruhime's stage. I don't like Tsuruhime very much. I find her very troublesome. I also find her annoying in terms of, like, just the character. And I also absolutely detest the significant time loss that can arise at the beginning of the stage based on what I believe to be RNG. So at the beginning of the stage, there are 6 squad leaders and a base captain that you have to kill in quick succession. The first guy is on the left here, and I have to kill him before I move past him because I have nothing that will hit behind me. If I don't kill him here, I will not be able to kill him without turning around, which is obnoxious. Mitsunari effectively has 2 AoEs, his R1 and his guard triangle. Here I use his R1 in order to vacuum the other enemies towards the center where he is. And the RNG that can happen is that guy, so the guy we kill at first, there's a guy mirroring his position on the right side, and if he decides to run towards the beginning of the ship where you enter it, he won't get caught in the R1, and you'll have to go around the side of the ship and kill him. It's like 5 seconds. Tsuruhime's really annoying because she has a lot of things that give her iframes, including one that jumps her into the air, so you can't really retaliate, but if we hit her out of the cutscene there with execution, then she just dies. You can do all kinds of moves to not go into this room, but they're all less consistent, so I just run in there. You cannot hit her from outside of the room. She's invincible until you enter. That applies up over here as well. This stage has several skips that more mobile characters can use. Some of them are exclusive to Kotaro and Honda because they have such good air movement. Mitsunari can ape a couple of them, and there are some that are just available to every character. But there's one that's actually Mitsunari exclusive, and I don't do it because it's really inconsistent. It works in ILs quite well, but I would never recommend doing it in a full game run unless you're very, very practiced. This is like my 3rd run of Mitsunari's story ever. So I stopped doing the movement tech there to jump over the curse, and then I jump over that wall that saves like 4 or 5 seconds. Here on the left, there's a trick that a couple of characters can do. Honda and Kotaro can do it. Mitsunari has to fake it. He basically wants to hit through the wall and get a warp with the 3rd hit of his square string to get him higher into the air, and then he can clear that. I messed it up twice, so I probably broke even with just doing it the normal way, but whatever. That's pretty much the whole stage, but I'll briefly cover what the other tech is, even though I don't show it. So, we ran past a room. We jumped past it right after the cursed guy, but if you go in there, there's guys throwing barrels up on the ledge. Now, there's an invisible wall there. You can't actually pass that invisible wall by gaining height. It's, like, infinitely tall. We've tried with Honda, for example. He just can't fly over it. But Mitsunari can hit them through the invisible wall and warp to them. It's very hard, and there aren't that many enemies that you can hit, so it's kind of inconsistent. So, since going into that room is a time loss unless you do the trick, I would not recommend it in full game. But in ILs, it is probably the fastest way to finish the stage, by a couple of seconds. So, if you want to go for it, it's right there. In other character stories, this is about the point where you might start seeing Last Stand show up. You can just reload the game to avoid that. Mitsunari can't get it on his red route, as far as I know. Having played it a total of 5 times and 3 times as speedruns, I've never seen it show up, so I just assume that he can't get it. The next stage is Mori's stage, which is very straightforward like Saika's stage. It just has harsher turns. That doesn't matter to Mitsunari because he can turn at a 90-degree angle whenever he wants. I think he can even do 180, but I don't know when we would ever do that, so, Most of the obstacles in this stage he can just circumvent by being very fast and being able to warp through things. So there's like some shield guys, he doesn't have to jump over them, he can just keep dashing through them with the forward triangle, as you'll see here, because it makes him temporarily intangible, or actually in this case it just kills them. But like on hard, you would just be able to warp through them. I missed an execution there, that's probably like 3 seconds gone, unfortunately. I couldn't angle myself in time. So coming up throughout the rest of the stage, you'll have sunbeams to dodge, except you won't have to dodge them if you're fast enough, because they won't pass by before you reach them. This is kind of like weirdly segmented, because the rendering range for traps is not very high. If you look at the other side of the room there, well, I'm approaching it now, that beam of light on the ground that shows where the sunbeam will hit, that doesn't appear until you enter the room, and the cycle doesn't start until that beam on the ground is rendered. So it only matters how fast you cross that room, not how fast you reach the room. I did mess up the movement tech here coming into the cutscene. I accidentally used an extra forward triangle in an attempt to get execution to combo out of it, which does normally work, but for some reason he blocked the execution, which I have not seen happen on the first time I used it. This game has a concept called attack level. It's kind of similar to Smash Bros. Move scaling. That doesn't really ever show up on easy mode, but basically what happens is it forces enemies to block your attacks after you've hit them with any given attack twice other than your square string. Basically, the first 2 times you use an attack, they'll get hit by it. The 3rd and 4th times, they will guard it. The 5th time, they will parry it, and then they'll go back to getting hit again. The cycle just repeats. This is per attack, so the game stores a different number for, like, your guard triangle and your R2 and your R1, etc., etc. The only one that isn't directly affected by this the exact same way is your square string, because it hits more times. But as stated, this doesn't really come up on easy mode, because you kill things so quickly. So, same situation as Tsuruhime's stage. We use an R1 to suction in the guys and kill them. It's just less annoying because there's only 3 and they're closer. Once all 3 of them are dead, it starts the timer that makes Shimazu spawn. You want to execution him. That will immediately kill him and make him run. And then you want to go to the left base, and you want to get an execution from a distance on the base commander, but I messed that up because that was my first time doing this strat. You want to do it from about the flag, because that's about the limit of where it will reach. But at this point, I was just like, okay, screw it, I'm already in his face. Shimazu will always spawn to the right of you. You want to line up, make sure you get him with this, because otherwise you lose like 5 seconds, because he'll like screw around, maybe block you, dodge you. I've had all that kind of stuff happen. With workhorses, you do enough with execution that he'll immediately run away. Also, I hate that that little piece of fence exists. I don't know why it's there, other than to be annoying. Not like they were thinking about speedrunning when they designed the stage, but still. And in any case, you just execution this gate guy. You ignore the tiger and tiger handler. And by ignore, I mean you don't engage with them, but it is possible to get jumped on by the tiger if you do the execution in the wrong spot, and don't dodge immediately after. I've had that happen. You want to try and execution Shimazu out of the cutscene, which I do here. It doesn't kill him, but it doesn't matter, because even if you kill him in one hit, you have to sit through this dialogue. It's story dialogue. There's dialogue that will be automatically skipped when conditions are met, and then there's dialogue that's pertinent to the story that will not be skipped, because the developers want you to understand the story, and if certain dialogue is skipped, since that's the only way the story is told besides cutscenes, you just won't know what's going on, which is why that dialogue is not skippable. So we only have 1 stage left. There's a bunch of different Sekigaharas that different paths have. On this one, we play Sekigahara Assembly. It's a pretty painless stage. It can be done in under 2.5 minutes, so we call that a good stage. And once again, let us give thanks for the fact that Mitsunari cannot get the last stand in his red route. As previously stated, our timing method ensures that it does not cost you anything in the speedrun, but it is still very annoying to reload to not have to play it. This is a pretty long stage, but most of it happens in a straight line, so the movement's pretty easy, which is kind of nice. Not too many things you can get caught on, either. You know, it's funny thinking about it. We don't use a single Basara attack in the entire speedrun, because it's never necessary. We just do so much damage with execution, why would we ever take the time to build Basara? Hero time works the same way. It makes fights more consistent, because you can essentially just turn an enemy's AI off. There is technically space in our build for this, because every stage is beaten fast enough that we don't need all 5 workhorses that I have equipped. We only need 4 of them, which would give us 2 minutes of plus 4,000 attack. So there are still improvements to be made in the route, aside from just the little mistakes that I've made throughout this run. I'm not entirely sure where a Basara would come in handy, because it doesn't actually do meaningfully more DPS than Execution, even if it's more total damage. And if we don't finish the stage with it, it ends up being slower because it has a lot of ending lag. Oh, so right here I tried to line up to catch them both in an Execution. You can do that. I've done it once, but I did not manage it here. That would save probably like 4 or 5 seconds if you got that, but it has to be pretty precise. So anyway, back to hero time. Hero time sprinting is actually faster than this movement tech by a little bit, but it only lasts 8 seconds unless you're killing enemies to maintain it. So we would have to find some way to kill enemies quickly enough while in hero time, while also making use of its benefits. In other words, since attacking to move can kill enemies but prevents us from gaining the benefits of hero time, it's questionable whether that's worthwhile. The only other thing hero time can do for us on easy mode, because we don't have to deal with attack level really, is that it makes boss kills more consistent, but that's only true on paper, because if we kill them in one hit anyway, all it does is help us line up our shots, which we should ideally be able to do anyway, because if we're taking time to line them up, we're still losing time. So, that's kind of unfortunate. I do definitely see value in trying it on hard mode, though. I'm pretty sure it's impossible to kill Ieyasu in one execution because of Omake level. Basically, like, built-in scaling for enemy stats that applies later in story mode. It also affects your drops, although we don't care too much about drops in the speedrun. But I'm pretty sure that's not a big deal. Same reason as Shimazu, there's some dialogue at the end. And there's really no way to get us enough attack to kill faster than we do, I don't think. Because he loses like 60% of his health, not like 90. Anyway, that's Mitsunari's Ending A Easy Mode NG Plus speedrun. Thank you for watching. I hope the rest of your day is super cool, and please do not die, because that would be bad. Feel free to leave a like, ask questions in the comments, etc., etc. You know the drill.
I feel my spirit begin to wane, for it is done.